Welcome back. Your seat's open. Pull it up to the table. Let's talk about how you measure up. Comparison has been declared the thief of joy, and it really is. Its counterpart, gratefulness, goes a long way. But can we ignore comparison? Of course not. Comparison is something we all deal with every day. Maybe you were compared to a sibling. Maybe you're frequently compared to a coworker. Maybe you compare yourself to everyone else. You know, it's interesting. The older I get, the more I find people who are ahead of me in their years giving me advice about comparison. And the advice is interesting because it goes something like this. You know, the older you get, the less you're going to care what other people think. I think that's truth. I find myself having that happen. I'm not worried if you don't like what I'm wearing today. I'm not worried if you don't like my hair. You know, it used to look a lot better anyway when I was younger. There's nothing I can do about the fact that it's thinned out or changed. I'm not interested in comparing myself. I'm interested in what makes me unique, what makes me valuable to you. And so when I think about comparison, I think about why am I doing the comparison? And does it matter? I was frequently questioned as to why in the world I'd give up my home, the one with the hardwood floors and almost 4,000 square feet, to move into this beat up lake house. Well, the reality is I'm not in it for the house so much as I am the lifestyle. But thief of joy, comparison, comes along and says, well, maybe your house isn't good enough. I mean, somebody your age really should have something nicer, don't you think? Well, not if I'm happy with what I have. Not if I'm grateful that I have a home at all. See, I've been inspired by years of working with organizations that help kids in underprivileged areas. And you know what I've noticed? Those kids, those organizations that work with those areas, they can show us joy. They show us joy in having nearly nothing at all. If you have nothing, how can you have joy? And it makes you question all the marketing messages that you hear every day that tell you that joy comes from something you own or a position you hold. Comparison is truly the thief of joy. I came across this quote not long ago from a man named Chuck DeGroat. And what he says is late-stage capitalism thrives on comparison and competition. And he's not wrong. Competition is what drives the society we're in. If you didn't have competition, what could your cell phone be? As bad as it may feel now, it could be extremely high. He goes on to talk about how your worth is measured and broadcast. And in the world of social media, isn't that the truth? We're all trying to stake a claim as to who we are and where we are in society's pecking order. We're trying to get as much for ourselves as possible, which is part of the reason why I question doing this YouTube channel. Am I adding value? I can't want it to be all about me, and I truthfully don't. The last thing he says is our identity becomes something to secure, something we defend, and something we have to outperform rather than something we receive and something we inhabit. So thanks, Chuck, for that. I think it's a brilliant observation. But what does it mean for us? Comparison's not going to go away. It's not going to go away in a workplace. It's not going to go away in our families. So how do we relieve the burden on ourselves? How do we take away the comparison that steals our joy every day? The reality is we just have to be grateful for the few things we have. If you watch the movie A Wonderful Life, you know that somewhere within that movie, the bank survives on just 2 lonely dollar bills, and they put them in the safe with great joy and great rejoicing. That's kind of where we need to be. For anything that we have, being grateful solves the problem we have of being comparative. Because being comparative means we will never, ever have enough. That's one of the things that we've ended up doing in our life. Early on, I chased the corporate dream early on. Each opportunity to go from an individual contributor to a manager to some kind of leader, oh, that looked good, I was in. Not realizing it may not actually be good for me, or it may not fit who I'm trying to be, or it may even steal from my income and my time, to the point where I'd lose gratitude. Those kind of things are important along the way. And so we stopped comparing. We stopped trying to measure up. We stopped worrying about our cars and just started driving something older, something we could afford, not something that kept up with anyone else. We stopped measuring ourselves by anybody else's expectation. We measure on our own. Of course, that drove me to learn how to do more things. We'll talk about DIY in another episode, but I firmly believe it's a big part of keeping comparison at bay. Being able to do things yourself really helps with having this drive and desire to have more, but not being sure how to get there. Is that possible yet today? I mean, we are in a, quote, late stage capitalism here. Can we avoid comparison? And the reality is, of course we can. There's nothing here that applied before that doesn't apply now. We have all been comparing ourselves since grade school, where we had our names and our grades, sometimes even our height measured in the class, and we compare ourselves to others. It's built into who we are. But it doesn't have to be that way. We can focus first on being grateful for the things we have, for the things that we're able to do, and the life that we are living. Secondarily, we can focus on what comparison is and what areas are valid for comparison. Where do other people speak into our lives with a comparison that makes sense? Typically, it's not going to be a comparison so much as it is an example that someone else sets. And I think that's an important shift in our thinking. Don't compare yourself to how well someone else is doing. Instead, focus on what are the things that other people are doing that might be good to emulate, that are things that make you more of who you want to be. Until next time, thanks for stopping by.